Thank you, Sir Graham, and it's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. The human consequences of this horrific pandemic have been the most painful to bear. Sir Graham, as we have heard from all members here today, I realised we share a common bond forged in the fire of this pandemic. We as MPs, in serving our constituents, are witness to stories of dread suffering caused by the circumstances created to our response to this virus. However, I have found that when my constituents have written or come to meet me to seek help and support and share their circumstances that define their lives and the dementia-affected family members, that it's then that one's heart truly bleeds and one struggles to keep strong for them. And finally, once one finishes reading their letter or bid them farewell at the door, when considering their cases, one invariably finds one's cheeks a little wet. There's no gilding the lily. These have been and continue to be bruising, brutal days. And for all of us in the country. Sir Graham, the impact that COVID has brought upon dementia care patients and indeed their immediate professional and familial carers is one of immeasurable emotional anguish. 1,197 people in my constituency, Wakefield, have been diagnosed with dementia, and the representations I have received from their carers and families through this pandemic have highlighted immense suffering, above and beyond the explicit death count that this pandemic has brought. In this debate, I wish to raise two important points. Firstly, the increased vulnerability of dementia patients through this pandemic, and secondly, the irreplaceable nature of human contact. Whilst we, as legislators, continue to interrogate and evaluate whatever data is presented to us, we can say with certainty that age is a strong determinant in both the development of dementia and serious illness and fatality as a result of COVID-19. Those with dementia are often susceptible to further underlying health conditions that affects their status of vulnerability. A joint study published in August by UCL and LSE found that people with dementia accounted for 25% of COVID-related deaths in England and Wales and 31% in Scotland. As such, it is both rational and morally right that dementia patients are put to the very front of the queue to receive the vaccine to mitigate as far as possible the immense double distress caused by having dementia and pervasive fear of catching coronavirus. My second point is perhaps more poignant. We often speak of the pandemic's disruptive capacity in bringing forward years of technological change into a matter of mere months. Dementia lays bare the irreplaceable nature of meaningful human-to-human contact and care provision. The very condition of dementia degrades and deprives people of memories of their loved ones over time. In many cases, where frail muscle memory remains, the only thing that provides a sense of recognizable comfort is the faint recognition of a family member or regular carer in an increasingly confusing and scary environment. With the myriad of rules and regulations that have been imposed upon us, this necessity becomes ever more critical. I am sure that many of us in this House have seen the distressing videos of a nurse being returned from her residential home from her trained daughter, a nurse. It was not only deeply distressing, but painful, and a sorrowful metaphor of the anguish that many care providers face in making decisions that relate to their nearest and dearest. As I said earlier in an early debate in this House today about breast cancer, we must ensure that the cure is not worse than the disease. And when the state imposes measures upon the freedom of the individual, the state and its representatives must retain human kindness, compassion, and decency at its very core.